Okay, a very good morning students and all my friends. Today I would like to present the task 1 research proposals, which is in the fundamental of mathematics education research MTES3263. This a little bit of my own profile. My name is Alvin Chiang, and I'm from PISMP Mathematics, as you can see once, in 2021 until 2026 from IPG Campus Camps. And the research topics is the effectiveness of game-based learning in enhancing the financial literacy of primary school students in mathematics. So the content highlights I will focus on 3 parts, with the chapter 1 introduction, chapter 2 literature review, and chapter 3 research methodology. And chapter 1's purpose will come through with the background of the study. In today's globalized era driven by technology and modernizations, financial literacy is very important in education. But however, Malaysia always faced a concern over low financial literacy levels, especially in primary school students. The early exposure to financial education in mathematics is very important because it can improve the long-term financial behavior, attitude, and knowledge. And as we can see, as 2020, the Malaysia financial literacy have standing was improved significantly, where they scored 59.7%. However, it's still lagging behind in terms of world average, where it's sitting at 16.5%. A UCSI Poll Research Center also has reported that around 73% of Malaysian youth are in debt and other consequences of the lack of financial literacy. As here we can see that the financial literacy is very important for youth. So it's essential for starters from childhood. And the traditional method of financial education in mathematics often fail to engage a young learner effectively because the passive engagement face curriculums, time-consuming, and limited interactivities. What I want to say here is the game-based learning, where it has emerged as a promising approach to enhance financial literacy by making the learning interactive and enjoyable. The game-based learning also can teach the practical financial concepts while informing the mathematical skill. Where we can see here, the financial education is become as a cross-curricular elements in mathematics. This aims to shape the further generation capable of making the wise financial decisions. It teaches the financial management and skill to manage the financial affairs responsibility. And the financial literacy is not only the crucial life skill, but also the essential component of mathematical literacy in the modern world. And the problem of the statements, integrating the financial literacy into the primary school's mathematical curriculum is critical to develop the responsible financial behavior in young learner and instilling the basic money management skill. However, the existing teaching methods, mainly on the traditional teaching methods, which is not effectively in engaging the primary school student or promising the meaningful learning experience in the field of financial education. A lack of practical application and engagement in financial education actually contribute the persistence of this problem, where it build out the gap between theoretical teaching and practical application, often hinder the student ability to understand and apply the financial concepts in the real world. Additionally, the problem is further exacerbated by a lack of the innovative and engaging teaching methods that targets the unique learning needs and preference of primary school students. And the purpose, objective, question, and hypothesis of this study, we can see that this study was conducted to first identify the level of student financial literacy toward mathematics in year 4 students. Second, determines the impact of game-based learning on student financial literacy compared to traditional instructional methods. Third is investigate the effectiveness of game-based learning in improving the student financial literacy. In the hypothesis, we can see 2 hypotheses. First is there is a significant difference between the level of financial literacy among the students who use the game-based learning method compared to students who use the traditional learning method. And the second is there is a significant difference between the pre-test mean score and the post-test mean score among the students who use the game-based learning methods compared to the students who use the traditional learning methods. And the scope of this research proportional research is the first target population. This study will be conducted in the select national who is SK for years for students in urban category in Paran district. And the interventions methods with the independent variables, we will use the game-based learning as the innovative pedagogy approach to teach the topic money to enhance the financial literacy within the mathematical curriculum. And the dependent variables, which is two, with the level of financial literacy and students score in pre-test and post-test for the mathematical subjects that focus on the topic of money. And the limitations, because this is just a research proposal, we still not implement at school. So I just do the prediction of limitation that will be appears in this research. So first is duration of study. The duration of the study poses a limitation in capturing a long-term effects of game-based learning on financial literacy, where given the short-term natures in this research, it may only provide a slides into immediately or temporary change in student financial literacy levels. And second is external factors, with the external factors such as social, economic status, parental involvement, and student motivation will improve the outcome of the study, while the efforts will be the next control this variable. However, these impacts also still introduce a limitation to the research findings. For example, the urban children generally have the higher financial literacy, and their financial literacy growth rate after the intervention and also lower than the student at the village test. And the significance, the finding of this research are expected to have a positive impact on student mastery and comprehension of mathematics. Furthermore, this study holds a significance for teachers, students, and school administrators, as it will shed light on innovative approach to teaching financial literacy within the context of mathematical education. For students, it offers opportunities for more engaging and immersive learning experience. Through the interactive gameplays, students can develop practical financial skill while honing their mathematical ability, prepare them for a real-world financial decision-making scenario. For teachers can adapt their instructional practice to better meet the needs of diverse learners, which means that this research can inform a professional development initiative for teachers, equipping them with the knowledge and skill necessary to effectively integrate the game-based learning in their classroom. For school administration can allocate the resource effectively, ensure the access of the technologies and the learning material that can support the game-based learning initiative. They can create an environment that conducive to the development of student financial literacy skill, ultimately contributes to their long-term academics and financial success performance. For the operational definition of terms, we have two important terms, with the game-based learning and level of financial literacy. For game-based learning, is the instructional approach that integrates an element of gameplay, such as simulations, into the learning process. It involves the borrowing of certain gameplay principles to apply them to the real-life setting to engage the student in learnings. The game-based learning also is not just creating the games for students to play, but it's designing learning activities that can incrementally introduce the concepts and guide the user toward the end goals. The learning method become an interventions tools for experimental groups to see the effectiveness of game-based learning in enhancing the level of financial literacy. And for the level of financial literacy, it integrates as a cross-curricular topic within the mathematical subject. Is crucial for students' holistic developments. So financial literacy is defined by the scholars such as with the composite essential knowledge, skill, and attitude required for the informed financial decision making and effective management of personal finance. For primary school students, financial literacy may involve applying the mathematical concept in real life financial situations, thus preparing them for future financial success. And the level of financial literacy, it can be observed and measured. Observed, we can see Either the student can master the topic 3, money, and the subtopic 3.3, financial management, and 3.4, responsibility in making the financial decision in year 4. For the item for majorated, this is pre-test and post-test, which measure the effectiveness of game-based learning in enhancing the level of financial literacy. And the question 9 for measure the level of financial literacy in years 4 student. And the summary in this chapter, we have discussed identifying the problems to be studied is the basic for the research study. By knowing the problems that occurs in the field of education in school among the student and teachers, the researcher can set a direction of the study, which is to identify the correlations between the game-based learning and financial literacy among the year 4 students. Okay, next we will go to the chapter 2, literature reviews. And literature reviews is more about the game-based learning. We will explore the learning theories, effects, and the findings. So the finding first, the Smith 2018 have found that the students exposed to the game-based learning interventions significantly improve their financial understanding compared to those who receive the traditional instructions around 28 group rest. And the second is John and Smith in 2019. A meta-analysis confirmed these results. We're highlighting that the game-based learning not only enhance the financial knowledge, but also foster the engagement and active learning, leading for more better retention of financial concepts. And addition, and third, the Lee 2017 has shown that the game-based learning could bridge financial literacy gaps, where benefiting the student from low-income background by enhancing their knowledge, skill, confidence, and self-efficacy in personal finance management. Based on the Future of Financial Learning reports, it helped significantly improve the student literacy among the students from lower social economy around, where it showed that the growth rate of financial literacy of 29% at the social economic areas and 21 financial literacy growth rates at regional and rural areas compared to the city student, which only 12% of financial literacy growth rate. And in contrast, urban students experience a smaller increase of financial literacy growth rate, is only 4%. And this difference may be due to the higher baseline financial literacy of urban students, and which may be affected by factors such as living environments. Okay, the second is the effects of the game-based learning in financial literacy. And first, the game-based learning positively improves the student motivation and attitudes toward math, which have been said by Boyers 2016. The meta-analysis revealed that students exposed to game-based learning displays a higher intrinsic motivation and enjoyment level than those in conventional settings. Moreover, the interactive nature of game promotes a sense of autonomy in learnings, but allows the student to take ownership of their mathematical education, where have been said by the Boyers 2013. And empirical study further support the game-based learning efficacy in boosting the mathematical achievement. User 2019 have found that the student engaging with digital math games exhibits the improved mathematical skill compared to those in traditional instructions. The adaptive feedback system in game facilitates personalized learning experience, aiding in skills mastery and tireless learning. And we go to the theories. Game-based learning, I found 3 theories which related. The first is behavior learning. According to the behavior principles, learning occurs through the informants, repetitions, and associations. In the context of game-based learning, behaviors integrate through a reward system such as points, budgets, and others in games rewards that can motivate the learner to engage with the learning materials. For the constructivism learning theory, constructivism, which emphasizes the learning by doing, find the practical applications to the game-based learning. And constructivism can be integrated through an open-end gameplay and explorations, allow the learners to experiment with different solutions and create their understanding of the learning materials. And third is the flow theories, where The theory describes the stage of the flow in which learners are so engrossed in activities that can lose sense of times and no other activity is matter during that times. Students experience a flow state when they are fully immersed in activities characterized by high focus, engagement, motivation, and immersions. In essence, flow theory suggests that when students are deeply engaged and immersed in the games, they are more receptively to learnings and experience the heightened level of performance and enjoyments. Where you can see in these pictures, the student need to go through in the process where the skill, ability, and level of challenge in at the moderate levels, so that they can fully engage in the learnings where they didn't feel too difficult for them or frustration for them. Literature reviews examining the collection of study discussed in these chapters is supposed to show that the effects of game-based learning on financial literacy. The past study have proved that in these learning methods can have a positive effects on student achievement when compared to the traditional methods. The game-based learning methods approach so that it transfer of the ideas and knowledge of to students in solving the problem and reacting to the learning concept. In addition, result of the previous study has shown that the improvement of game-based learning methods strengths and impacts on teaching and learning. Thus, this study aims to provide an answer for all the research questions that this study needs to be carried out. Okay, the last chapter is chapter 3, research methodology. Okay, first is the research designs. The form of this study is quantitative study. They use the experimental study designs to collect the data. And this study used the pre-test and post-test design of the control group and the experimental groups as shown in this table ones. And we can see that the experimental group and control group will use the same pre-test and post-test, but the different treatments with the experimental group will use the game-based learning methods and control group will use the traditional learning methods. And this study used a random sampling method that involves a total of 61 respondents consisting of 30 for the experimental group and 31 for the control group from an urban category school in Tuaran district. Okay, for the sampling method, the sampling is done using the simple probability sampling because this study is experimental study where we just push one part of the populations with the either sample with 30 students for experimental group and 31 students for control groups. And sampling in this study used the simple random sampling 2 years for students in the Tuaran district who take the mathematics subject. And the result in this study will not generalize to represent all schools. And the sample consists of 61 years for students up from one school in Tuaran districts. For the research instruments, to measure the research question and obtain a desired data, I have prepared 2 instruments for this study. Both of these instruments are selected based on the form of the research users, with the quantitative methods to assess the level of financial literacy of years for students in Tuaran district and the effectiveness of game-based learning to the level of financial literacy in mathematical subjects. And this research instrument divides in questionnaires and worksheet with a pre-test and post-test. In the questionnaires, we want to test the student the level of financial literacy. The chosen research instrument is 3-point light scale questionnaire, which is modified and adapted from a compilation of past study, namely financial literacy scale EFA and formation of financial literacy questionnaire to measure the level of financial literacy of students in Tuaran district. And the questionnaire includes 2 parts with the part A and part B. And part A is the student basic information, and part B is the financial knowledge questionnaire, where it have 20 items, and the question is more about the student financial literacy in their daily life. They can learn from mathematics. And these 20 items have been modified from a questionnaire from the previous study and adapted to the language adjustments suitable for years 4 students. And questionnaire with the 3-point light scale, which is a disagree, is 1 point, not agree not straw is 2 points, and agree is 3 points. Among them, some of the test questions are reverse questions, which means that their scoring method are exactly the opposites of the above. For the pretest and post-test, pretest and post-test are given to students who to measure the effectiveness of game-based learning on students' financial literacy levels in mathematical subjects. The chosen research instrument is based on assessment of competence and literacy (PKL), which is from Kementerian Pendidikan Malaysia from 2020. The pretest and post-test contain 3 question components involving the entire topic of mathematics based on years 4 SKP. The pretest is given at the beginning of the study, while the post-test is given after the group go through the interventions. So the researcher obtain the score of both tests and compare the 2 results to see the effectiveness of game-based learning. This is an example for the question 9 and pretest. We can see that there's 20 items in the question 9, and we use 3-point life count. And the item is select from the student daily life situations. For the pretest and post-test, if we have 3 components questions in one test, and we first this question from the PKL, which is the pentafsiran, kompetensi, dan literasi. This made from KPM, Kementerian Pendidikan Malaysia, which means that is very certified. For the conceptual frameworks, the game-based learning method is the independent variables because it is interventions in this study. The teaching methods involves teacher and student as the main component involved in the process of demonstrate the effectiveness in this study. The independent variables in this experimental research can be manipulated or be changed. In this study, the game-based learning method will be given to the experimental group, whilst the control group only use the traditional methods. The study will have also the dependent variables, namely level of the financial literacy. The student financial literacy level is determined through the pretest achievement and post-test achievement. The researcher will determine the rate of improvement in the achievement performance through the pretest and post-test score. Therefore, with the proven increase in the effectiveness of game-based learning on student achievement. For the dependent variables, the level of financial literacy is determined through the comparison with the score of the level of financial literacy between the control group and experimental group. For the intervention procedure at the initial steps, the researcher wants to know the level of achievement of the students in topic. Years 4 by giving a pretest to the both group if the control group and experimental groups. The pretest is given 30 minutes to answer all the questions before the methods is applied. So the pretest contains 3 structured questions to find out the student assessing knowledge that relates to the topic of financial topic of monies in year 4. And the intervention of game-based learning methods was given to the experimental groups in the teaching and facilitation sessions related to topic of money in year 4. And this group will use the game-based learning methods while the control group will give us traditional learnings. After being given the interventions, the last step in the procedure of this study is to give the main instruments through a post-test to evaluate the level of understanding and effectiveness of game-based learning methods on financial literacy. And all the students were also given a set of questionnaires to measure the level of student financial literacy. All this data have been obtained and will be analyzed through the prescriptive method. For the pilot study, because we didn't have implements it, so I just give the suggestions for how to doing the pilot study in my research purposes. So the finding of pilot study will be analyzed using the SPS. The ideal result of the analysis is that overall value of from batch alpha is expectedly to assist 0.7 because according to the quest, well, the closer the value of the batch alpha to 1.0, the higher level of reliability. And alpha value of less than 30, the alpha value of less than 0.6 is considered weak, and 0.7 is acceptable, and more than 0.8 is considered good. Even though the best alpha of this question that have been proven in the real levels according to the source, and is accurate for measures student financial literacy. However, I have turned the question, which means that I have changed a little bit the question about the language so that it's suitable for the years 4 students, which means that this may have a slight impact on the Umbridge alpha. For the data collection procedure, the data collection procedure will begin with the researcher giving the pretest and to the experimental group and control group. Then the researcher implement the game-based teaching in a 1 hour teaching and facilitation sessions related to the topic of monies. After finishing the lessons, the researcher will give a post-test within 30 minutes. Next, the researcher will also give the 15 minutes to the study samples, which is years 4 students to answer the question 9 that have been given and send it back to the researcher. And the same procedure was done to the control group, but with the difference in the intervention parts. That is, the teaching used was in the traditional teaching methods. And the result of the data collections will be analyzed according to the appropriate methodology based on the research question and by filling the research hypothesis. For the data analysis procedures, for the analysis of student financial literacy in the mathematics according to game-based learning method and traditional methods. In this analysis, the main purpose is we need to compare the game-based learning method and traditional methods towards the student financial literacy. So to attempt the comparison of the difference in the level of financial literacy in mathematics between the experimental group and control groups, an independent t-test analysis will use. And this independent t-test will use to compare the mean score between the experimental group and control group. This because these two groups are separate and is not dependent on each others and are called independent samples. And the t-test analysis method will be performed using the SPS. For the question 9 analysis of student financial literacy levels, firstly, we will the collection from 61 respondents needs to compile and organize. And this includes recording the response to each item in the questionnaires and calculate the total score for each student. And the total score for each item is divided into 3 levels, namely low, medium, and high. And descriptive statistics such as mean, medians, and modes will be calculated to summarize the overall level of financial literacy among the year 4 students. And these statistics provide insight into the center tendencies of the data and help to identify any trend and the patterns. And the last is analysis of the effectiveness of game-based learning in enhancing the student financial literacy. And this analysis can be shown by comparing the mean score for the pre-test and post-test for the experimental groups. The mean score of this test was measured based on the result of the answer calculated based on 3 questions structures in the money topic of years 4. A pair sample t-test was made to identify whether there was an increase in student financial literacy using the game-based learning or not. In summary, this chapter has discussed the research methodology to answer this research question, and experimental studies designs has used in this study to compare the effectiveness of the interventions for the experimental groups. The data collection methods through the questionnaire and post-test questions is suitable for the quantitative research. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you.